Hey everyone, in the first two parts of this discussion, the Baker 2 team shared the importance of physical and mental preparation for us as leaders. In this part, we tie it all together with our spiritual preparation. We dive into our passion and purpose to excel in our chosen profession. Our preparation physically, mentally, and spiritually maximizes our potential to lead and be successful in any situation we come across. Let's tie these three aspects together, and
I just want to clarify. So we're not saying necessarily that any organization is dysfunctional to its core. It's more of the mindset that I think we want to know how to make an organization function better than it does, right? Because even the organization that we're part of, it functions very well. I mean, we accomplish a lot, but how can we make it function better and accomplish more? I think that's really what we're trying to address and trying to focus on. So, granted, any organization is that functions well is still going to have dysfunction, and that needs to be focused on and rooted out.
Yeah. So, just speaks to our topic on how to be a better asset to your team, how to be more of an effective leader. So we talked about physical preparation, mental preparation, and we tied all together spiritually as our purpose on why we do those things. When we talk about those three aspects, they're constantly coexisting with each other. They're feeding off each other, and that sort of establishes a culture within your team, within your family, within your organization of effectiveness, right? Because you're always looking for a way to be more effective, to be better. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't, you're always going to have your physical limitations. You're going to have mental limitations. How do we get past those?
Well, as part of an organization, that's the whole purpose of having a team, where one team member ideally will pick up for the lackings of another team member, right? So not everyone can be as strong as Josh, right?
Thank you.
But
I can show you guys.
But other team members bring other things to the table to support the overall goal of the team. But individually, I think it comes down to having an honest self-assessment of yourself about what you're strong at and what you're weak at. And like anything else in sports or personal fitness, like, we don't like to do the things that we're weak at because we're weak at it, and it doesn't make us feel good to do those things because we suck at it. But those are the things that we need to do more than the things that we're good at, because we're already good at those things. So having the personal fortitude to honestly self-assess and have a hard look at your weaknesses, and then taking the next step and actually working on those is how we can address those shortcomings.
Also, asking for help.
Yeah.
Like, if part of your team, you're not good at something, but say Josh is 100% better at me, like, I'm not gonna put my ego in there, like, oh no, I don't want Josh to get the clout. I don't want him to look good. And but no, I need help, Josh. Like, I need you to do this for me, or can you help me do this so we can accomplish this task as a team? And then watch Josh do it, or watch someone that's better than you do it. Try to, not copy, but learn from it, and then work on those issues that you have.
Yeah, so another word that I like to use, the self-assessment, is that just introspection, right? Truly looking at yourself and seeing what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses. And not just, hey, let me focus on my strengths, but let's improve my weaknesses while also maintaining my strengths.
Yeah.
And it comes down to checking the ego, at the door. And you talked about, you know, the competition we have with ourselves, with our peers, with our team members. You know, it's got to be healthy.
Mhm.
You've got to have a healthy competition to challenge yourself and challenge your peers. And you have to be able to accept failure. I think a lot of times we hesitate to seek out the training because we don't want to be viewed as a failure. In our line of work, we always want to be viewed as deadly,
Mhm.
right? We want to be viewed as lethal. And as we're getting older, you know, we may not be able to do the same things we were able to do physically, you know, 10 years ago. We may not be able to see as well as we were able to before. So we have to continually adapt to maintain that level of being an asset to your team, right? So you have to, can't be set just in your ways. These are the things I'm good at, but you have to be willing to accept constructive criticism, right? And I think sometimes we have a problem accepting criticism. And that also goes with being able to deliver constructive criticism. But you like you were just talking about, like, you know, that constant competition within yourself to be better. And that ties down to your passion, right? Ties down to how passionate are you to doing this job? And how passionate are you to share the knowledge that you have, the experience that you have with those after you? Because all of us stand on the shoulders of the people that came before us, right? They've established a legacy for us to live off of. I mean, the team you're part of is world renowned. I mean, you're still not a part of the world's greatest fighting organization, right? That's the United States Marine Corps. I don't care if you're a Navy SEAL or a Green Beret, an ODA, I don't care, right? But, you know, it just, that constant competition with yourself, and like I see sometimes, and even I'm guilty of this, where we sometimes take ourselves too seriously. And we think we're above something, right? You've heard this, and I know you've heard this. People always come to us because we're all decent shooters, and they always ask, how do I become a better shooter?
Mhm.
They always ask that. And I'm sure our response is all the same is, well, do you dry press at home? What are you doing to be a better shooter? And their answer is they do like the bi-monthly qualification.
Yeah.
Right? And the basic fundamentals to marksmanship are the basics. There's no change in them. And I talked to you about this, and I think you, Moke, when I went to that training, I had to shoot belt-fed weapons that I haven't shot since 2007. And mentally, I was like, okay, how do I do this? And I told you, my girlfriend was even like, are you sure you're going to be able to handle that? You're not 22 years old anymore. Right? And my ego kicks in.
That's why we have women in our life to
check us.
to put us in our place and give us a dose of reality sometimes.
Yeah. So I look at her, you know, cool guy, right?
Yeah.
At least I think I am. I look at her and I say, babe, the fundamentals are the fundamentals.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. And so come the day that we're going to do the qualification on those weapon systems, we didn't get a lot of trigger time before the qual cut came, and I had to take a deep breath, right? I had to find my center. Spiritually, I had to find my center. And that relaxed me physically, right? Because my heart's going, boop, 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 boop. I have a heart murmur.
So my probably from high quality bang.
Thank you, Bang.
I'm sure that's what they want to hear.
Yeah. So good your heart won't know what to do.
Yeah. So going back.
You could have told, like, I didn't have a heart until I did.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
That's what we should have went with.
So, on those days where I'm getting that trigger time for 45 minutes before I qual, right? I'm kind of freaked out. I'm like, dude, I'm printing like crap, right? So I'm looking at the holes that I'm putting in a piece of paper, and I had to take a pause spiritually and say, hey, dummy, the basics are the basics, whether you're shooting a pistol, which I shoot really good, or a rifle, right? Or a shotgun.
Yeah.
I just have to apply those fundamentals to the weapon system. And that small spiritual pause, helped me refocus, find the balance. We had an instructor during this training. He was a Team 6 guy. Great dude. Like, the guy is probably the most interesting man in the world. He was like a pro bull rider, bucking bronco rider. He went to like racing schools. He's telling me all this stuff. And he always, like, when the guys were freaking out in the shoot house or whatever, he'd always like, hey, dummy, is that piece of paper going to kill you? I'm like, no. Then take a deep breath. Like, find your center, that spiritual balance, right? That allows us to calm down. We've talked about it before during our trainings. Before, when I'm stacked on a door as a point man or any position on the stack, and this goes back to my Marine Corps days, I always tell myself, head up, chin up, front sight tip. And that small moment allows me to relax physically, allows me to focus on what my role is mentally, and then spiritually I'm like, hey, I'm doing this for these guys, let's do it. And we need to find that balance. What is it that you say?
Head up and look for work.
Head up and look for work.
Yeah.
And like, what does that do to your head?
It kind of, I guess, centers you. It just reminds you, like, hey, what the basics of what you need to do are. And it kind of puts things in perspective, at least for me, because, hey, if you have at least when you're moving through, the shoot house or a regular structure or whatever, if you're head up, then you can observe things earlier than if you just have your head down and you're just following the guy in front of you. Then you can make those decisions. So what seems like whatever time it takes to make that decision, you're starting that clock earlier, so you can make that decision earlier and then act on it sooner, as opposed to just coming up to a situation without any time to react and then kind of just doing something and hoping for the best. But then what you said too about training was my experience when I was going through SWAT schools. So our SWAT school at the time was 14 weeks long. The first 4 weeks were spent at the range. And it wasn't long before I was accepted to SWAT school. Prior to that, I had been a police officer 2, and then just got promoted to police officer 3, and then within 3 or 4 months was in SWAT school. So my whole perspective of SWAT school for me was, hey, whatever happens. I just got promoted a few months ago, and if I don't make it this time, I'm just going to try again. Not that I wasn't taking it seriously, but that was my perspective, and it kind of gave me a 1,000-foot view of the situation, as opposed to being like really immersed in it and thinking, hey, if I don't make it now, I'm never going to make it. So that just kind of put me at ease, helped me stay centered and put things in perspective to make those decisions and act the way I need to get through that process. Similar to your experience at your last training, firing belt-fed weapons. So yeah, it just having that ability to act from or to think and act from a I guess a place of calm, or at least a place of relative calm, helps you to make the proper decisions that need to be made.
Yeah, and the physical preparation, the mental preparation, the spiritual allow for success to happen.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And that's the whole point of us even assembling this team, is to challenge individuals. Challenge them in a way where they build confidence, physically, mentally, and hopefully feed that spiritual aspect to them, to now they're capable of taking on anything. We started this podcast with me telling you guys, you name the country, we'll invade it. Right? That's the mindset that I have, because I'm confident in each of your guys' abilities. Right? I know without a doubt that if that's the direction we're going in, all four of us are going in that direction. Moke might need to catch up.
Fast. I mean, that's the one.
No, but the team aspect that we believe in, we feed off of each other. That's why I shared that story about that probationer that said, "You're the squad leader, dude."
Yeah.
It was like, no, man, I'm just the ringleader.
I'm just a pretty face.
Yeah.
That's what she said, just a pretty face.
And the handsome guy.
I'm the one that just puts everything together, right? These guys are the masters, and it's important that the individual person gets rid of the idea of they're not a leader because they may not have the title, right? We need to get rid of that identity leadership idea and start to focus in on, how do I become an asset?
Yeah.
Right? How do I become an asset? How not only do I make myself better, but how do I set the example for everyone else to follow and develop that culture within whichever organization that you have that breeds success, right? And then sometimes we define success as, only a win. Like, how would you define success?
That's a whole other topic. Because the way you define success, I mean, obviously it in some respects it can actually define whether or not you're happy or not, right? Because if success to you is, I don't know, being rich, right? So then you think, okay, I'm not going to be happy until I'm rich, and then when you're rich and you find you're probably just as happy as you were before, then it kind of crumbles your whole definition of what success was, and then you start to question, why did I do the things that I did in order to get to this place that I thought was success when it wasn't? And that's just like one example, so I guess to your question, I guess, how do you define success? For me personally, success is having a strong family and raising children that have, I guess, generous values is the easiest way to put it, right? So children that aren't selfish, or people just raising humans that aren't selfish, right? Not being, because then what that means is that I have to model that behavior to my children, so that puts me in a certain mindset or frame of mind in order to be what I want my children to be, which doesn't always work out, right? I mean, there's always that conflict of what your values are and then how you act. They can be two separate things. But to me, success is if I can raise children that can be well balanced and successful in their own right, meaning that whatever paths they choose lead them to happiness, then I feel that I've succeeded.
But like you said, I don't think success is always a win, right? Because I think when you fail and you learn from it and you become a better person, a better athlete, better mentally, that's a success.
Yeah.
Not only that's a huge success.
And so I mean, as you can tell, I'm a big weightlifter, right? But so I didn't really get into like straight lifting weights until I decided, okay, I need to get stronger in order to get through SWAT school. But I mean, failure in weightlifting is like a given.
Yeah.
And you're not succeeding unless you're failing.
Yeah.
So if you're lifting weights and you're always, meeting all your reps, then you're not doing anything. You're not growing. So, in that sense, and again, kind of coming full circle, but about the physical aspects of leadership or preparation. Like you said, failure is not a bad thing. It shows you where your limits are, and then you can push yourself to get through those limits.
Yeah, I don't think you should look at failure like I'm never gonna fail. You should think like, it's when I fail, how am I gonna get through this? Because if you think you're never gonna fail, then you're just too cocky and you're not checking your ego, and that's detrimental.
And then when you do fail, you crumble. You have no, you can't recover from that.
Yeah, that's detrimental to you as a team, family,
Yeah.
like your whole life. I think that's kind of a big thing.
Yeah.
It speaks to resiliency. So that's why bringing that full circle, physical, mental, spiritual preparation, we tie into our training, because in our training is where we want that failure.
Yeah.
In the profession that we've chosen to work in, and even any profession, right? In the trainings is where you want the failure to occur. And we have to find those limits or those points of failure to build upon. So, like we were saying, even though we failed in a scenario or we failed in a qualification or a shooting, we still succeeded because we identified something. And it's a challenge to us as individuals to continue that passion, that spiritual hunger to train physically, to train mentally, and have fun with it.
Yeah.
You gotta have fun. Ethan and I, one time we switched holsters. He shot left-handed. I'm a left-handed shooter. He shot left-handed and I shot right-handed. And people were looking at us like, dude, you guys are retarded.
Yeah.
They're not wrong.
Yeah, probably.
I shouldn't have used that word. You guys suffer from mental illness. But we're having fun.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're partners in the car. We're both competent shooters. The qualification, the pistol qualification, when we were in Metro, wasn't difficult for us.
Yeah.
Right? We're consistently shooting perfect or near perfect scores. So we needed that extra challenge, that extra competition. And guys that are people in our unit and our team that weren't confident shooters, they were the ones looking at us, out of the side of like we're crazy. And it was funny because when we turned in our scores, we still scored higher than them.
Yeah.
And we're shooting with our support hand. Who shot higher? I did. But that's like a small example of making monotonous training fun. And you have to throw in the fun to have that passion. Whether it's a date night with your wife, with your girlfriend, right? Even like I take time to do things that each individual kid that I have likes.
Yeah.
Right? It kind of takes me out of my comfort zone to let my daughter, paint my nails neon green because the stuff never comes off completely. Right? People look at me like, what the heck? But, it's, for them, it builds that love, that trust with them. And it's okay to come out of my physical comfort zone or my mental comfort zone and say, go ahead, have fun with it and laugh, about it. And what you said, like when you define your success, at no point did you say your profession dictated your success.
No.
And I think that's a true statement when it comes to some of the most prolific military leaders we've ever had. Right? And a lot of these books that they've written or have had, co-authors write, a lot of the substance of those books is the correspondence and the love that they have for their families.
Mm-hmm.
Right? General Patton kept a diary, and they published some of the letters that he used to write his wife during the war. Same thing with Chesty Puller Same thing with Colonel Hackworth.
Napoleon was notorious for writing letters to his wife constantly.
Yeah. And it's like, the passion and the love that you have can't be just strictly for your profession. And this is where we have to balance our professional lives with our personal lives. And the same physical preparation, the same mental preparation, the same spiritual preparation has to tie into the family aspect. Otherwise, you're going to get burnt out.
Yeah.
You're going to get burnt out, you're going to get burnt out quick. You're going to be, I can tell you straight example is me, right? You're always chasing that adrenaline rush, right? When it's time, when you should be like, hey, let's take a time out, enjoy walking to the park with your kid. Enjoy those small moments, because what is truly substance? Is chasing somebody at work? Are you going to live that part of your life for the rest of your life? Well, it's fun to reminisce, but what truly matters, what truly builds your life, what truly leads to a successful life is leaving a legacy that your children, your team is going to follow. So with that, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Bang.
For the heart rate.
Yeah.
And
if you say it enough, maybe it'll come true.
yeah, we hope that, we pray and we challenge everyone that listens to this podcast to seek out, the training.
Yeah.
Seek out the challenges, physically, mentally, spiritually, and here at Baker 2, we're coming up with ideas on how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that we have to get rid of is the excuses. Right? Everyone has an excuse. And it's simple. You want to become a better shooter? You start drive passing. You start applying those fundamentals. There's no shortcut to success. You told me, the path to success isn't always a straight line.
Yep. There's many paths to success.
Yeah, and it's depending on what your definition of success.
Mm-hmm.
Like what is your purpose? So with that, should we wait for Moke?
I don't know. I took it.
Pause it so we could.
I can't pop it. It ends it. They find that?
Yeah, and then we'll just do a toast at the end. Do you have a? With that said, that's going to conclude part 3 of our first episode
Baker 2.
of Baker 2's podcast. How we prepare to be leaders physically, mentally, spiritually. You guys have any last things to say?
No, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, it was fun. Show will get better.
Yeah.
Better mics later, maybe.
Hello.
Email us, baker2consultants@gmail.com. We want to thank Bang and
Honest Kids.
Honest Kids Juice. And we want to put out the challenge to each individual to prepare yourself for that moment when whichever challenge you come across, you're ready for it. I think that's all our hopes when we train. So I'm going to pose a toast to everyone watching, to you, to us, and those like us. Salute.
Salute. Honest Kids, great, baby.
This is Josh checking in again. You heard us discuss the importance of physical, mental, and spiritual preparation for us as leaders. This preparation builds our confidence to operate as a team. We must challenge ourselves in our preparation and training so that we can lead effectively in stressful situations and overcome any opposition we are faced with. We want to give a shout out again to Dead Tree Company. Check them out on Instagram @DeadTreeCo. And also for all your Still Target needs, check out America Field Targets on Instagram. Challenge yourselves every day to be better. Mahalo. Godspeed and stay frosty.